Edinburgh was seen for many years as one of the most desirable cities in the United Kingdom, known for its quality of life, renowned universities, professional opportunities, and strong tourism industry. The Scottish capital attracts thousands of people looking for an alternative place to live in the UK. But in 2026, many residents say that the reality of the city is changing. Population growth, a lack of housing and rising prices have transformed the property market into one of the biggest challenges for those trying to build a life in Edinburgh. What was once considered a place that balanced opportunities and quality of life now faces growing pressure. Rents are becoming more expensive. Finding a home has become more difficult, and many workers feel that the city is becoming increasingly unaffordable. At the same time, Edinburgh faces problems that are often hidden behind its image as a historic and tourist city. Poverty, the rise in homelessness, difficulties related to the cost of living, and inequality between different areas reveal a reality very different from the one seen by the millions of visitors who arrive every year. The city is also dealing with the effects of growing tourism. While international events and millions of visitors boost the local economy, some residents question whether Edinburgh is becoming a city designed more for tourists than for the people who live there. The growth of short-term rentals and the transformation of residential areas have created new debates about the future of the city. In addition, living in Edinburgh comes with less visible challenges. The cold weather, long periods of limited daylight during winter, and the difficulty of building social connections can make some residents experience a feeling of isolation, especially those who arrive from other countries or leave their hometowns in search of a new life. So, how did Edinburgh reach this point? How did one of the most admired cities in the United Kingdom begin facing a housing crisis, rising living costs, and social problems that many visitors never notice? In this documentary, we will explore the problems hidden behind Edinburgh's perfect image and reveal the dark side of living in one of Scotland's most famous cities. Edinburgh is facing one of the worst housing crises in Scotland. The city has a much higher demand for housing than the number of available properties, making finding a house or apartment one of the biggest challenges for anyone planning to live in the Scottish capital. In recent years, the city's housing market has become increasingly pressured by population growth, a rising number of students, the arrival of new workers, and strong demand from people interested in moving to Edinburgh. However, the construction of new homes has not kept pace with this growth, creating intense competition for the limited number of properties available. In 2023, the local government officially declared a housing emergency in Edinburgh, recognising that the city was facing a significant shortage of affordable housing and that many people were struggling to find suitable places to live. The problem is even greater for those who rely on renting. Prices have increased significantly in recent years, and many residents are forced to spend a large portion of their income simply paying for housing. Young workers, students, and middle-income families are among the groups most affected, as salaries often fail to keep up with rising costs. For many residents, the only solution has been to share apartments with other people, accept smaller properties, or search for homes in areas farther away from the city centre. This has changed the reality for many inhabitants, who must choose between paying increasingly higher prices or leaving areas where they have always lived. Buying a property has also become more difficult. With high property prices, many young people working in Edinburgh are unable to save enough money to purchase a home, making the idea of owning a property seem increasingly distant. Another factor that has increased pressure on the market is the growth of short-term rentals aimed at tourists. Many properties that could have been used by residents have been converted into temporary accommodation, further reducing the number of homes available for local people. The consequence of this crisis is a city where living is becoming increasingly expensive and where a growing portion of the population struggles to remain in the same place where they work and have built their lives. Edinburgh receives millions of visitors every year, and tourism has become one of the city's main economic forces. However, the constant growth in the number of tourists has also brought new problems for those who live in the Scottish capital, increasing pressure on infrastructure, prices, and the daily lives of residents. One of the biggest examples of this impact occurs during the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, the largest arts festival in the world. During a few weeks each year, the city's population increases dramatically with the arrival of artists, tourists, and temporary workers. Streets become crowded, accommodation prices rise quickly, and residential areas begin to operate at a completely different pace compared to the rest of the year. Although events like the Fringe are important for the local economy, many residents question the impact of an increasingly intense tourism model. In some areas of the historic centre, especially the Old Town, the concentration of visitors has transformed places that were once mainly residential into areas focused on tourism. The growing demand for accommodation has also contributed to the reduction of properties available for residents. Many landlords have chosen short-term rentals for visitors, such as apartments used by tourists for only a few days, because this model can generate more profit than traditional rental agreements. This change has created a conflict between two sides. On one hand, tourism creates jobs, supports restaurants, hotels, and local businesses. On the other hand, it increases competition for space within the city and contributes to the rising cost of living for those who live there. Beyond the housing issue, some residents complain that certain areas have lost part of their local identity. Traditional shops have been replaced by businesses aimed at visitors, while restaurants, bars, and services have increasingly adapted to the needs of tourists rather than local residents. The problem became so noticeable that Edinburgh decided to introduce a tourist tax for visitors who stay overnight in the city. The measure was created with the aim of raising funds to improve public services and deal with the impacts caused by the large flow of tourists. For many residents, the issue is not about ending tourism, but about finding a balance. Edinburgh depends economically on visitors, but the challenge is ensuring that the city remains a place where people can live, rather than becoming only a destination designed for those who arrive for a few days. The growth of tourism has brought fame and money to Edinburgh, but it has also created a difficult question. How far can a city welcome millions of visitors without beginning to lose space for its own residents? Edinburgh has one of the strongest economies in Scotland, with important sectors such as tourism, technology, education, and financial services. However, the city's economic growth has not prevented part of the population from facing serious problems related to poverty, homelessness, and difficulties surviving with the rising cost of living. The issue of homelessness has become one of the biggest concerns for local authorities. In recent years, thousands of people in Edinburgh have needed to seek government assistance because they were unable to find a suitable place to live or were at risk of losing their homes. Many of these people are not necessarily living on the streets. The housing crisis also appears in less visible ways. Families who need to temporarily stay with relatives or friends, people living in temporary accommodation, and individuals who depend on public services to find shelter. Pressure on the social housing system has increased, with many people waiting for a solution while facing high rents and limited options in the private market. For those with low incomes, the situation becomes even more difficult, as rising housing prices have reduced the alternatives available to people who cannot keep up with the city's costs. Another issue connected to poverty is the impact on mental health and drug use. Organisations working with vulnerable people in Edinburgh warn that many individuals face a combination of factors such as unemployment, social isolation, psychological problems, and a lack of adequate support. Central and tourist areas of the city, visited daily by millions of people, also reveal this inequality. While millions of tourists walk through historic locations and contribute to the local economy, some residents continue to struggle with basic needs, such as finding stable housing or accessing essential services. The situation of homeless residents also highlights a contradiction in Edinburgh's development. The city has an international image of prosperity and quality of life, but part of the population still struggles to access the minimum conditions needed to live safely. The rising cost of living has become one of the biggest challenges for those who live in Edinburgh. Although the city has a strong economy and offers opportunities in areas such as finance, technology, education, and tourism, many workers face a reality where salaries are not keeping up with rising prices. The main difficulty lies in balancing income and basic expenses. Housing, food, transportation, and services have become more expensive in recent years. forcing many people to spend an increasingly larger portion of their salary just to maintain a basic standard of living. The housing market is one of the biggest factors behind this pressure. With rents among the highest in Scotland, workers earning average salaries often have very little money left after paying for housing. For many young people and professionals at the beginning of their careers, living alone in Edinburgh has become a difficult option, leading many to share apartments or search for areas farther away from the city. This situation mainly affects workers in sectors that are essential to the functioning of the city, but do not always offer high salaries. Employees in restaurants, hotels, shops, and tourism services help keep Edinburgh's economy running, but many of them struggle to afford living in the same city where they work. The problem is also visible among students and recent graduates. Edinburgh attracts thousands of people every year because of its universities and professional opportunities, but many discover that the cost of staying in the city can be much higher than they expected. In addition to housing expenses, rising prices for food, energy, and transportation have further reduced the purchasing power of many families. Even people who have jobs and a stable income have started to feel greater financial pressure as their money does not go as far as it used to. This gap between wages and living costs has created a feeling of economic insecurity among many residents. The issue is not only about earning less, but about living in a city where prices have grown rapidly and where maintaining a comfortable lifestyle requires an increasingly higher income. Edinburgh's climate is one of the factors that most influences the experience of living in the city. The Scottish capital has a climate known for low temperatures, strong winds, frequent rain, and long periods with limited sunlight during the winter, something that can directly affect the daily routines and well-being of many residents. During the winter months, the days become extremely short, with only a few hours of daylight, while cold temperatures and cloudy skies become part of everyday life. For people arriving from warmer and sunnier regions, this adaptation can be difficult, especially because the lack of natural light for extended periods is associated with changes in mood and energy levels. The climate also influences how people use the city. During periods of intense cold and constant rain, outdoor activities become less frequent, and many residents spend more time indoors. For some people, this can make it harder to form new friendships and build a social life, especially for foreigners who arrive without an existing network of contacts. Loneliness is another challenge reported by many residents, particularly among international students, immigrants, and people who move to Edinburgh alone. Although the city has a large university population and many cultural events, creating deep connections can take time, especially in a society where many people have social circles that have been established for years. Another factor is that Edinburgh has a different pace of life compared to larger and busier urban centres. Some people arrive expecting an extremely energetic city, but find a more peaceful routine, where the climate and lifestyle can make adaptation slower. For those coming from abroad, the combination of harsh winters, distance from family, limited hours of sunlight, and the initial difficulty of building new relationships can create a feeling of isolation. This problem is especially noticeable among foreigners who need to adapt not only to the climate, but also to local customs and culture. Edinburgh is considered one of the safest cities in the United Kingdom when compared with other major urban centres, but that does not mean it is free from problems related to crime. The city still faces challenges linked to violence, alcohol-related offences, drug trafficking, and inequality between different areas. One of the main characteristics of crime in Edinburgh is that it is not evenly distributed throughout the city. While central and tourist areas have a strong police presence and receive millions of visitors every year, some more distant neighbourhoods face social problems that contribute to higher crime rates. Areas such as Sighthill, Wester Hailes, Muir House, and Niddry are often associated with greater socio-economic challenges, including poverty, unemployment, and problems related to drug use. These factors do not mean that all residents in these areas are involved in crime, but they show how economic difficulties can increase the vulnerability of some communities. One of the issues that most concerns local authorities is the impact of drugs and the violence associated with the drug trade. Although Edinburgh does not have crime levels comparable to major cities such as Glasgow or some areas of London, health and safety organisations have warned for years about the effects of problematic substance use, especially among vulnerable groups. Another important issue is alcohol-related violence. As a city with a major nightlife scene, many incidents of assault occur in areas with bars and clubs, especially during the early hours of the morning and on weekends. The concentration of people in the city centre can increase incidents involving fights, antisocial behaviour, and vandalism. In addition, population growth and the rising cost of living are also creating new social challenges. When a city becomes more expensive, some communities may face greater economic pressure, increasing problems such as social exclusion and a lack of opportunities. Despite these challenges, Edinburgh continues to have safety levels considered high compared with many other British cities. The main issue is not widespread crime throughout the city, but rather the existence of specific areas where social and economic problems end up creating conditions that are more favourable for certain types of crime. And the video comes to an end here. Which of these secrets did you find the most surprising? Please share your thoughts about the dark side of Edinburgh in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now. I'm sure you'll enjoy the content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.